Hello and welcome. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network and everything we do. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, a car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch Firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, he has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. All right, and here we are finally for Conversations with Cully and Conlon. I'm your host, Steve Cully, best podcast host in the universe. And with me, as always, UConn legend, Western Connecticut State University head coach and movie star, Maria Conlon. Maria, great to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a bit for this one. It's funny, you were going through all the sponsors, and I was actually driving past
A sign?
a billboard in Bridgeport right as you were saying his name. So
He's the man. Isn't that crazy?
yeah,
He's
good.
he's
Good
the
stuff.
Better Call Saul of Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I had wanted to ask you. We had talked about it with Joe, but I never got the chance to ask it. He wanted to know, and I did as well, because you obviously have played on undefeated national championship teams. And he was curious if, going into the tournament undefeated, is there any added pressure to that situation where the expectations are obviously higher that you're going to come home with the national championship?
I don't think so. I think with the coaching staff, I've been there to do this many times as, going into the tournament undefeated. I think for the staff and for the players, it's just business as usual. I would anticipate, some of the freshmen maybe being a little bit nervous, the first game, kind of getting, the nervous jitters out. But outside of that, I don't even think that they're thinking about the fact that they're undefeated. I don't think they're thinking about the fact that it would be back to back. I think the focus is one game at a time, and I think that's what makes them great. And I think they have a coaching staff that knows how to set that mentality and keep it cool and keep it light and keep them focused. So no, I don't think so at all.
That's kind of what I thought too. I didn't think this team, these kids, would be focused on that. They've been there before, and then they have some kids who haven't been there before. So I don't think that it would weigh on them. Looking at the bracket that they're in, obviously they're hoping for the drama of a UConn Vanderbilt matchup to go to the Final Four. What do you see as being the keys to victory for UConn if they hypothetically are to play Vanderbilt to go to the Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, I think for UConn, it's just play your game, do what's made you successful all year. I think UConn's done a really good job at pressuring the other team's guards and kind of taking the ball um, out of the hands of the players that the other team wants to get it to. So my assumption would be that, they'll cue in on the freshman point guard from Vandy and try to pressure her early. My other assumption would be that, they'll run some different people at Michaela Blake, who obviously is their first team All American, and then
Right.
I mean, listen, Vandy's talented. They've played in a tested SEC league all year, SEC tournament. But, just like a lot of other teams out there, they have some flaws. I think they were exposed for some of that in the SEC tournament. I'm sure that they've had enough time now to fix them. But I think UConn's defense, and I've been talking about this all year, has been phenomenal. And, I think if they create some pressure on those two guards early and often, and then continue to do the rest of the stuff that they normally do, they'll be fine.
This team has been spectacular all year long. Last year's team won the national championship. They obviously had injuries. They played in some closer games, but this year's team is just decimated anyone who stepped in front of them. Now, you said obviously when they play other conference champions, if they get a South Carolina or an LSU, I think you mentioned Texas as well, they could give them difficulties. In what area do you see UConn being maybe deficient or may have to play better in those situations against top talent from an SEC or an ACC team?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, when you talk about Texas, um, or you talk about UCLA, or you talk about South Carolina, I think, um, or even a team like Duke, or even a team like Vandy, I think
Yeah,
that, they're going to see some defensive pressure that they probably haven't seen in a few months just because of the way that their schedule works. I think that, all of those teams that I just mentioned have people that could at least match up against Sarah Strong. I'm not saying that they'll be able to stop her by any means, but I think they at least have some kids that maybe can stop the bleeding at times, which could put them in a position to give UConn some trouble. I think a couple of those teams have some long guards who can get out, pressure, and chase easy off the three-point line. Um, and I think like a big question mark for me going into the NCAA tournament, it's not even a big question mark. It's like literally if we're scratching at straws here, like, um, you know, can the role players around Easy and
yeah.
Sarah, flourish and do what they need to do as a committee every night in different matchups? I think we've seen some good stuff from Williams, but not every game. I think, Blanca, since she came back from her injury, has been
Correct.
great, but I don't think she's the same player yet that she was before. I mean, obviously she's had a good 7-10 days to rest now, which I think definitely will do her some good. But, I think, Ashlyn Shape, KK Arnold, your girl Heckle off the bench, you
Eichel.
know, yeah, and, some of these other kids that have had some really good games in spurts this year. I think that we're just going to need some more consistency out of that in the tournament. And I mean, listen, like anybody could have a lights out game and us just go ice cold or get into foul trouble and things can be difficult. I think if we remain healthy and we remain flying on all cylinders, I don't know that anybody can touch us. Is it possible? Of course. I mean, I think the great part about women's basketball right now is the increased parity across the
Yes.
tournament. I mean, when I'm doing my bracket and filling stuff out, I mean, there's way more teams in the mix this year that I could see going to the Elite Eight, that I could see going to the Final Four, the Sweet 16. That in the past it was like just take the higher seed and your bracket will probably be good. I still anticipate seeing the number one seed in each bracket winning, but I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. I don't think UConn is one of those. I don't think they're really going to be challenged until that Vandy game, but Vandy's got to get through some people too in order to get there. So I think it's going to be a really fun NCAA tournament. I'm really excited for it. More excited than the men's side, which obviously I'm excited for that as well. But I think, women's basketball has taken some great strides in the last few years, and I think we're going to see that. There's a lot of really good players out there. And I think on the men's side, like we've seen in the past, like one kid just go off in a tournament and carry a team way
Correct.
further than they should. I think there's some teams on the women's side that have some players that have the ability to do that, way more than what we've seen in the past. And all those players are not on your typical top 4 or 5 teams. So I think it's going to make for a really exciting tournament overall.
What were your thoughts on the WNBA? They finally got a CBA done. They worked day and night for 5 days straight to nail it out. We don't know the final agreement for it, but people obviously think it's critical that they got it done because of the momentum they have, and with the World Cup being this summer, that it could have been really dangerous for them had they lost the season or had they lost games. And as of now, everything should be able to start on time. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on them being able to knock out the
Yeah, I
CBA
mean,
finally?
I think what I said back in the fall was like March, April is what I
Yes.
gave. It's like
Yeah.
that was my prediction of like when they were going to finally like give in one way or the other, because
You said one side would have to
you
break.
gotta, yeah, like you got all the excitement of the tournament starting. You want that ironed out before, the tournament
Right.
ends, then you got the draft, you have expansion drafts happening, etc. So like there were a lot of variables that needed to be ironed out really fast. I didn't read through the entire agreement. I did see that, the minimum salary now went from 66,000 to 300. I don't know what the maximum was. I didn't catch that yet, but I think that's a huge step in the right direction. It might not necessarily be exactly what they wanted, but I think I thought that was a really good, mutual agreement on both sides of like, okay, we can land here. I think Unrivaled had a pretty good following this year, so I think that
They
helped as
did.
well. Yeah, I mean, like the World Cup this summer didn't bother me because I feel like, the World Cup is the World Cup. You're going to watch that no matter if there's WNBA going on or not. But, it's less hoorah if it's not there. So,
Right.
I'm glad that they got that taken care of. I think, listen, I'm happy for the players. I'm happy for the coaches and the owners that have been kind of sitting in limbo, waiting to get some of this stuff ironed out. So I think, there's a little bit of breath of fresh air on both sides, and I think that was necessary.
Yeah. And it should be an exciting season. We're going to have a healthy Caitlin Clark. We have so much talent that's going to be coming through the WNBA draft. I think it's going to continue to lead to record-breaking attendance, TV ratings, and the players were compensated, I believe, with 300. It was either 300 or 5,000 for salary minimum, and they got 1.2 million for the maximum. The main hangup had been the revenue sharing agreement, and
Yep.
they wanted the net versus the profit, something like that. I couldn't remember, but
Yeah. So I mean, I
they
think all
stuck to
that's
their guns.
fair, right? I
Yeah,
think I
I
think all
do.
that's fair. I mean, I do think like the biggest hang up, you know, without people really saying it, was the revenue share. I don't think that the league, or the owners were disagreeing that the salaries needed to be increased.
Yes.
I think increasing them to the amount they did and then giving up a huge bulk of revenue share was just something they couldn't pull both levers on. So,
No.
you know, but, obviously it was agreeable on both sides. I think too, like I said, I mean, you go into a lockout, you're getting no salary. So, I think it was good on both sides to come to an agreement and move forward. And I think the game needed it. So all good stuff.
Yeah, and like you said, the games are going to get played, and they are going to make money based on the revenue that they generate.
Yep.
So if they continue to sell out games, they continue to get high ratings, the revenue is going to expand exponentially, and that is going to give them a larger piece of the pie. So going into the tournament, we did our predictions for yesterday. We had several questions because none of us picked UConn for the men. Do you see a scenario where the men could get hot and win this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think anybody can get
Anybody
hot.
can. Yeah.
I think that when you look at your brackets, you have to go based off of the information you have in front of you, not what you hope happens or what could happen, right? I mean,
Correct.
listen, you could take any seed in the tournament and say, hey, if they get really hot, they can go to the Final Four, they can go all the way. I think, my main concerns with the men all year have been, I just still don't feel that strongly that we have a point guard
Yeah.
who can play make and get it to the guys. And I think to your point yesterday and the question you asked, which I've been asking all year, is like, who's our guy? Like we're
Yeah. It
down
was like,
we're down three with 11 seconds left with the ball. Like, who's taking that shot? Is it Mullins? Is it Caravan? Is it Ball? And I think they've done it in committee this year, which is
yes.
great. But the problem with that remains is that when you get into the huddle and you have to draw something up, you got to pick one guy, right? So I think now the nice part is you can always just go based off of who's been hot that game. But historically, most teams that make it far in the tournament have their guys going in that we feel like, all right, we need a bucket right now. Here's exactly who we're going to. And I don't know that UConn's been able to answer that consistently all year. Now, I'm not saying that they can't and that Hurley and his staff won't figure that out and, whatnot. It definitely can happen. I just I don't think that I've seen enough, from my perspective, following them all year
Right.
to be able to see them to go all the way against some of the teams that they're going to have to go into. And, like, we have to remember they're in a really hard bracket.
They're in the probably most
They're in
difficult
the
bracket.
they're in the toughest region with the overall number one seed.
Yeah.
You got Michigan State in there.
Yeah.
You got UCF, you got UCLA. Like you got a lot of teams within there that I think can make a push. So I think, can we groove and put together 6 wins? Sure, absolutely. But if I'm a betting person, I'm not going with it. Not at this point.
If UConn were to face Michigan State or Duke, and they're going to have to face Michigan State first, and then probably Duke second, I believe, to get to the Final Four. Who do you think they would match up best against and have the best chance to defeat?
Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan State. I think
Yeah.
Duke. Both Duke and Michigan State are very, very well coached. I think Duke is a little bit deeper in their starting five and presents a little bit more size than Michigan State might in physicality. But I think we have a better shot of beating Michigan State than we do Duke. I think if you're a UConn fan, You
Yeah.
hope Michigan State gets knocked out early. I think that clears the path a little bit better for us.
Well, and St.
And
John's
then,
too.
yeah, well, I mean, St. John's. I don't see how St. John's beats Duke. I think they would
Right.
have to be like completely lights out. Again, I mean, you're looking at St. John's, who just won the Big East tournament. I think it's sad that they got a 5 seed. I think it's even sadder
It
that
is.
they got a 5 seed in
In the East.
in the East in with the overall number 1 of the tournament. So again, I mean, we can make plausible conclusions of why that is, but it doesn't change the fact that those are 2 really difficult draws for those 2 Big East teams.
And you had mentioned that we should have gotten today and tomorrow off from work so we could watch the tournament. Are you going to be able to maybe pursue a few games in your
Yeah,
purview?
I'm gonna try my best. I'm running around doing a million things per usual, but I'm hoping by like 2:00 I'll wrap some stuff up today, and then we'll see what tomorrow holds.
Okay. Well, thank you for giving us some time. We know you're very busy. We appreciate it. We appreciate you giving us an episode. So for UConn legend, Western Connecticut State University head coach Maria Conlon, I'm Steve Cully, best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.